Right, Sharon, I'm about to turn off my speaker, my camera's off and it is recording now, so it's over to you to start when you're ready.
Thanks, Marina. Hello, my name is Sharon Ward from the Care Inspectorate, and I'm going to talk to you today about the challenges that people with a learning disability and dementia may face when they move into a care home. I've worked with the Care Inspectorate for over 5 years now, but relevant experience that I have from the past, I've worked with people with learning disabilities for 25 years, and latterly I did a lot of work with people who were living with a learning disability and dementia, including setting up services, specialist services for people. So if we just move on to the slides. So I'm going to talk about the impact of change and look at this through the eyes of a person who's living with both a learning disability and dementia. And we will all be aware of the impact of change on people who are living with dementia. And if you think about then a person who also is living with a learning disability, who already had a cognitive impairment before they developed dementia. If we add to that then the fact that a lot of moves to a care home come as a result of a crisis, then that can make the change even more difficult for the person to understand and then to manage. And if we think about then how the person is experiencing the changes and how that might impact on their quality of life and the outcomes then that they will experience. So the person is likely to have been living either at home with their family or maybe in a supported living service with maybe one other person or a few people, might have lived in their own tenancy with visiting care staff. So moving into a care home and living with other people, and there might be, 20, 30, 40 other people there, it's going to be quite a change and quite a frightening change, maybe for the person. New faces. Who are these people? I don't know who they are. Don't understand what's going on. Even if the home is separated into separate units, there's still going to be maybe 10 people in each unit with staff. That's going to be care staff, domestic staff, etc. So a huge amount of new faces, new voices, etc. Thinking about the noise levels in the care home, lots of different voices, different conversations that are going to be impacting on the person. We know that noise can be one of the most challenging areas to cope with for somebody living with dementia. And if we think about all of the different noises that the person is going to be experiencing and being able to distinguish between the noises that are actually relevant to the individual, all of this is going to be creating confusion and anxiety and stress and distress. The layout of the home, as we said, the size of the home is going to be quite different for the person. Finding your way around, where's your room, where's the bathroom, it's going to be quite a challenge for the person. Corridors that all look the same, with lots of doors that all look the same, quite disabling for a person living with dementia and a learning disability. We've also got to think about the life experience of the person who may have lived in an institution at one point. Now, what might then be the impact of staff wearing uniforms on that person? Again, these are some of the issues that we have to consider that could possibly then lead to the person experiencing poor outcomes. And the person might be thinking, you know, where am I? I don't feel safe. And I might be experiencing stress and distress. I might be exhibiting this very overtly. I might be shouting, I might be, you know, throwing things, I could be hitting out. But equally, I could be quiet and I could be becoming more withdrawn, and it could be impacting on my eating and drinking as well. The slides that I have here, you'll see down the side that I have put in some of the health and social care standards, which are relevant to each of the areas that we are discussing, because what we want to ensure is that when people do move into a care home, that people's needs are met well and that people are able to be supported to maintain their skills and abilities and independence for as long as possible. So if we think about experiencing care and support and how staff may feel and what are staff's needs to ensure that they can support me well and care for me. So when staff may have a lot of support working with people who are living with dementia, they may have all the training and the knowledge that they need regarding what supporting older people, but what we need to ensure is that people have the person-specific and ongoing training to meet my needs when I'm living with a learning disability and dementia. It's also really important that the provider is confident about the staff's ability to meet people's needs. Because if the provider isn't confident and if the provider has concerns about their ability to meet the person's needs, then that is going to add to staff's concerns. So we need to ensure that there is appropriate leadership and support in place to ensure that staff have got a place that they can go to discuss any of their learning needs or just, you know, day-to-day concerns that they may have. Also, we need to make sure that staff are being supported to transfer the learning that they're doing into practice. That's the only way that we can ensure that people are going to be experiencing good outcomes. Some of the areas that staff may not have had to consider before in their working lives or in their personal lives maybe is actually what is a learning disability and how does a learning disability impact on the individual, and also what's different when you're supporting somebody who's living with dementia who also has a learning disability. So we need to ensure that staff have the appropriate skills and knowledge and support to ensure that they can meet people's needs confidently and competently. Otherwise, we're going to have staff who don't have the skills or abilities to care or support people well, and also staff may not recognise when people's needs change. When people are living in their own homes with family, you know, they will have established relationships with family, with friends. They might have still an active social life and be well known in their local communities. They may have routines that are really important to them, things such as, you know, doing their laundry specific days of the week, doing their shopping specific days of the week, how they like to be supported with their cooking and things, and specific activities that people like to go out and do. When people move into a home, there's a real concern that these relationships and routines and activities could be lost, and this would have a huge impact on the person's emotional and social well-being. The other people who are living in the home may well be significantly older. And I mean, for some people living with a learning disability, particularly people with Down syndrome, it could be that they're living with people who are from their parents or even grandparents' generation. So what are people going to have in common? What could people talk about together? The communal activities and entertainment that might be appropriate and enjoyed by the older people living in the home, you know, people with a learning disability who are considerably younger, you know, they might think this is for old people. This is what my mum and dad would listen to. So that can again be a barrier to people settling in and feeling at home and feeling that they belong. Another issue might be with older people's experience of people with a learning disability, attitudes and values that may actually, again, be a barrier to forging and establishing and maintaining relationships with people with learning disabilities. So this could lead to people becoming quite socially isolated, and this would put people's physical, emotional and psychological health at risk. When someone with a learning disability moves into a care home, staff may be unaware of how to communicate effectively with the individual. It may be that the person doesn't use any verbal communication. If they do use verbal communication, sometimes it might be that staff find it difficult to understand the person's speech, or it's going to take a bit of time to get to understand the person's speech. They may use different forms of communication. If the person's unable to communicate their needs or have conversations and have, you know, enjoy time with other people, they're going to become socially isolated. How are staff going to know when the person is in pain or in distress if the person can't tell them, or if staff are unable to interpret their non-verbal communication signs? This leads to people potentially not having their needs met. And then their person is going to experience stress and distress. They're not going to feel safe and they're not going to feel at home. As I said earlier, the care that the person experiences should be consistent with the health and social care standards. And this document is available in the link in the guidance that we are speaking about today. Hello, I'm going to talk now about positive experiences when people move into a care home. And hopefully the guidance is going to support staff to enable people to have a really good experience of moving in and living in a care home. Now, I know that this may not be people's experience currently. The slides that we're going to go through just now are going to be best case scenario. So if it's not your experience, then, you know, here's I really hope that the guidance is going to help people to experience better outcomes. It's really important that the transition to the care home is as positive as it can possibly be. And the person has to be right at the centre of the planning, and any plans start as early as possible. So speaking about anticipatory care planning, This is when we're supporting people to make choices and decisions about their future care and support. I think it's really important that anticipatory care planning is done early enough and it's part of day-to-day discussions, so it's not scary and it's not, again, done as a result of crisis. It's something that is natural and what everybody does. The transition planning, if we're at a stage where it's agreed that I need to move on, it's making sure that the person is actually involved in making this plan. It's at their pace and they are able to have meaningful input and absolutely are respected to be central in making decisions wherever this is possible, or that the person's representatives, if they no longer have the capacity, are making these decisions. What this also does is enable the person to build relationships and trust and feel safe and secure with the people who are involved in planning for the transition. This has to be multidisciplinary. Everybody around the table is there because they have an interest in ensuring that my needs are met. This can be health, social work, family, advocacy, current staff team, everybody around the table, so that when the plan is made, when the agreement is made, everybody is absolutely on board that this is the right thing for the person. As I said earlier, when we're thinking about making sure that people are enabled to keep doing the things that are meaningful and purposeful for them, we need to discuss the funding for any additional hours, one-to-one support, or whatever else is needed to ensure that the person can get out and about in the community if that's what they want to do, carrying on doing activities and going to clubs or whatever, and also that the person is able to carry on doing their laundry or, you know, the routines that are important for the person and to the person. If we're able to have a positive transition and really good planning, then what we're going to have is that the impact of the move is minimised as much as possible, and that we get to this stage where actually, if the person's staff have got to know the person very well from the care home, so when the person moves in, they already have built relationships with the new staff team, and this is going to help them to feel safe and secure. It's also going to support the person to maintain their sense of identity, because still doing the things that matter to me, the things that I enjoy and the things that I'm good at and the things that make me me. We need to ensure that the care plan reflects the person's needs and wishes. And this is absolutely the path, the person's support passport almost. Now, it may be that I've already been getting support from another service provider, and that I've worked with my current staff team to develop a care plan, can bring this plan with me. And that is going to be really good for the staff who are going to be working in the care home, because they're going to be able to get to know me, all the things that matter to me. My care plan is going to be in an accessible format. That means that I can understand what's in my care plan, because for me to be involved in developing my care plan, I actually have to be able to understand what's in there. So again, this is going to be really important that we have all the appropriate professionals in place to make sure that this can happen. Involve me and my family and other people who are important to me, absolutely, because planning my care and ensuring that that is translated into the support that I get is crucial. And that can't happen unless the people that love me and I love and care about are involved in this. Looking at the support that I get, it's important that we're thinking about what's, as well as what's important for me, it's also important that staff understand and support me to do the things that are important to me. So that is about making sure that people are supported to take positive risks in their life and do the things that matter to them and are important to them, even although they might seem a bit risky. But it's very much about working in partnership with all the professionals and with everybody that's important in the person's life to ensure that they are supported to take positive risks and to make really important choices and decisions for themselves. I may already have a life story book, or I may need your support to develop a life story book. It's really important that I am supported to remember who I am, what I've achieved, what matters to me, and what I still want to achieve. And that's going to be, it's really important, again, that all the people that I love and care about and who love and care about me are involved in supporting me to do this. If we're getting this right, then the person is going to be experiencing good outcomes because they're maintaining their sense of identity. They can carry on being themselves and feel safe and feel secure and feel valued. When we have people moving into a care home who are experiencing physical changes and the physical needs are increasing, as well as the cognitive, emotional and psychological impact of dementia, there's lots of things that we can do to support people to stay as well as they can for as long as they can. And one of the important things is spending time in ways that are meaningful and purposeful for them. So, said earlier, I've spent time talking about the importance of people's usual routines and habits. And this is really important. People maintain the skills and their abilities and their independence, because that is so important to enable people's social and emotional health to stay as positive as it can. Again, we spoke about taking positive life-enhancing risks to carry on experiencing life as you want to and achieve as much as you can for as long as you can. Ensuring that the environment the person lives in is as positive as it can be for the individual. And we have to think about things that are specific to each individual. So it might be things such as signage, being at the right height, the right size, the right format. We all assume that, a toilet door, for instance, that people understand what is a female toilet and what's a male toilet, but we need to check that out. Does the person actually understand this particular sign? If somebody's living with Down syndrome, they may be short in stature. Is signage at the right height, which should be at eye level? So, and again, thinking about the aging eye, then the size of the signs, that's also appropriate when we're thinking about lighting. What levels of lighting are going to be needed to ensure that the person can see as well as possible, and managing shadow and shade so that the person is, we're limiting the risk of stress and distress from shadows, but also glare and things. And thinking about maintaining people's confidence and continence So thinking about the layout of the person's bedroom. Now, if we think about the layout of the bedroom, it's really important, because if the bedroom is laid out in a way that's mirroring what, the person's bedroom where they've just moved from, that can be really comforting and help the person to maintain their abilities and skills. But equally, thinking about, can the person see the toilet from the bed? And then this is going to help the person then to maintain their continence through the night, to wake up and they can actually see the toilet from their bed. So if we're thinking about people staying well, it's important that people have got the appropriate stimulation, that is about engaging with people, but doing things that matter to me, things that I enjoy, and things that actually make me feel that I'm achieving and that I'm valued. As time goes on, people's needs will change and increase, and it's really important that the person's needs are assessed on a regular basis. So as well as being assessed when the person moves in, there has to be that daily check to ensure that any changes are picked up and that they are acted upon as required. This involves the whole of the multidisciplinary team, because what we need to consider is not just the person's physical needs, but also social and emotional needs. And again, thinking about any funding changes that might be needed. It's important to have input from the learning disability team, even in an advisory capacity, so that staff have got somebody that they can talk to if they have any queries or any concerns. Sometimes it might be that they are happy to come and do some training for staff and provide that specialist knowledge and expertise. Having input from speech and language therapy around eating and drinking, where if the person is, if there are risks around swallowing, and as we've already discussed, communication. It's really important that staff are able to assess when the person is in pain and managing their pain. So we have appropriate pain assessment tools, so that if the person is unable to articulate that they're in pain, staff can assess and ensure the person's pain is managed. And as the person moves towards end-of-life care, that we have the appropriate support in there for staff to ensure that the person's end of life is as peaceful and as person-centred as it can be. What we want to ensure is that the person is able to continue to enjoy life as long as they are able to do so in ways that are important to them, and that they're able to stay as well as they can for as long as they can. So if we just think about, we've spoke a lot about specific legislation, policy and guidance about dementia, but there's lots of policy and guidance that is appropriate for people living with a learning disability. And one of the most important is the Keys to Life strategy, which I've just put up here, the strategic outcomes of the Keys to Life here. But again, a copy of Keys to Life is available, a link is available in the guidance. I just want to say thanks very much for listening.